I can see chat now. That should be good. That should be real good. We're all set. We might not finish tonight because this case is massive, but we're gonna do our best. We really are. We really, really are tonight. We aren't quite near the end because this case, well, as I mentioned, this case is probably the longest one in the whole series that we're doing right now. We'll try. We really will try. I need to send out my usual notifications and we can get started. So there goes one, there goes two. While I'm doing this, for anyone stumbling in who doesn't remember what's going on, we last week continued with the final case of the first game, not the third game. We got a long way to go to get to Trials and Tribulations. We're still just on the original Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney right now, but that's alright because we have quite a mess of tangled webs that we have to sift through this fine evening. So let's start with it. Let's give it a shot. We are on day 3 trial ladder from Rise from the Ashes. This is live, right? Okay, good. It's working. God, every time I turn this thing on, sometimes I have a little panic attack about things not functioning properly. The Phoenix Wright time. It is Phoenix Wright time. We are continuing with our trial day. Well, technically trial day 2, but case day 3. Let's see. February 24th, 12:14 p.m. District Court, courtroom number 9. Let's see how this goes. The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. Trial Day 2, Part 2, theoretically halfway through. Yeah, you would think. You would think, theoretically. This case is already a tangled mess, but hey, that's alright. Welcome to Lycosone and anyone else who might be coming in. I hope you guys have had a good Friday, or whatever time zone you're in. I had family visit for the first time in a really long time, so I'm a little bit tired, so I'm sure that will make my logic more entertaining than usual. Welcome Kissy Face as well. Emma didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence for him on the day of the crime. Hey there, buddy. He's still fucking drinking on the witness stand. Is there any time when Marshall is not drinking? Witness, please state your name and occupation. Me, partner? Oh, I'm just a man, same as you, wandering the trails of civilization. I almost said trials of civilization. That would have been fitting, but no, we gotta be Texan about this, with my horrid accent. Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed. Yes, we get it. Oh, I know. You're a patrolman. He is. As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind calling it out. To be exact, it is Jake Marshall, Your Honor. The old cowboy Marshall, what a guy. Oh, what a guy. He's already drunk on the witness stand. What a good start. Howling wind? I've never heard Edgeworth described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct? According to the papers, partner. What do you mean? Edgeworth is finally sick of forcing witnesses to give their names. Yeah, no, he's just gonna do it himself at this point. I mean, no one's gonna give their name normally for him, so he's gotta do it himself. Desperado's soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up. What does that mean? Maybe it's the best if we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony on the day of the crime. In plain old English. I don't know if Jake Marshall was, like, capable of speaking plain old English. My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at a street-side saloon at the time it went down. So you weren't doing your job. Good to know. I'm just an innocent traveling man. So if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail. Jesus. The way he speaks. I can't say I particularly care for your attitude. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Marshall is on team day drunk. Clearly he is. Also, yes, I'm going to complain about another man's beard while shearing my beard with a buck knife on the witness stand. Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems? Well, that saves me the trouble of pressing that question. I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those. Well, yes. What about the fingerprint-activated locks on the evidence lockers? Fingerprint-activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those? He's not being very helpful. Clearly he doesn't like facial hair. And yet he has an eternal 5 o'clock shadow. Oh, the struggles of testosterone, I guess. He's not good with machines, or with following orders. Everyone's got their weaknesses now, don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. I love that at this point, the judge is already aware of which witnesses are going to be the most annoying. Shaving with a buck knife doesn't sound too comfortable. No, no. Not your face or any other part of your body for that matter. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours. Alright, chat. Time for us to continue with our usual strategy for this game, which is, save, and, see what we can figure out from the evidence we have. It's been a solid week since I played this last, but... Let's see. My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. Alright, tell me about that. How exactly did you keep an eye on the evidence room? I just made sure nothing moved in the security camera monitor. That room is so still. Even time dies in there. I was just a caretaker who interred the recordings. Saves come and press everything seems to be the dominant strategy. Yeah, in this game, there isn't quite as much punishment for randomly pressing statements. When you get to the second game, Justice for All, you start to have situations where if you press the wrong statement, you can get into some trouble. You interred them? Videos of nothing aren't that useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape. If nothing unusual is recorded, tapes are to be erased every 6 hours. Each time I'd erase the tape, it felt like I was erasing a part of my life. This guy has a flair for the dramatic, but it isn't gonna do him any good. So in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room. In actuality, you really don't physically enter the evidence room? And he doesn't know about the fingerprint reader, which, well, he isn't a detective, but he used to be one. Once again, the limitation of 1990s tech. Yeah, well, the game was released in 2001. There's only so much we can expect. 1, 2. Where were you exactly? What were you doing in a place like that? I was eating spaghetti. Not even Angel's steak lunches can beat the parlor's vongole? Sepia? Pasta? You know, I don't know what that type of pasta is. Do you mean to tell us you abandoned your police duties to eat some noodles? It is just a charming reminder of a cruder, clunkier, and more durable tech era. Yeah, honestly, the most beneficial thing the 90s and before had on our current tech is, durability. My lord, have I had durability issues on my modern machines. Not all desperados eat tacos, partner. That's not what I meant. I hope this has at least taught you a lesson. That's strange. This is usually where Edgeworth says, "Did you not want a raise this year?" Well, I don't know if he particularly cares about having a raise this year. Let's see. He was at a street-side saloon. The room's protected by 2 security systems. We already kind of had Phoenix question that before we got into this set of questioning. So he was supposed to make the rounds 3 times a day, but that wasn't his style. But if you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right? And you heard a word I said, partner. I told you that it ain't my style. I'm afraid I don't understand. Edgeworth's strategy with this particular witness is unclear at the moment. I don't think Edgeworth was expecting to have to deal with this today, so I'm not sure how much he's got already planned in his head, but he's had 20 minutes to come up with something, and now all the time he's being quiet to think something up. No desperado I know lets rules get in his way. No desperados I know join the police force. So, Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime, just between you and me, I didn't set foot in the evidence room that day. There was a rubber glove stuck in the victim's locker. Do you know anything about that? Sorry, partner, can't say I do. I haven't been in that crypt in weeks. How does this guy avoid being fired? How corrupt is this department that this dude can literally just go eat spaghetti in the middle of his shift and let someone be murdered in there, theoretically? That one's a lie, he definitely did. Well, that's the thing. We do have his fingerprints. Evidence that he was there and that it had been wiped off, but I mean, when is that from? Do we actually have any evidence that it was from the day of the crime? How long do fingerprints last on a surface? Man, I wish we had Emma here, because she could, like, tell us about that. So you were... I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put the prints here. We'll save, and if it doesn't work, then I'll try something else. Because I have gotten to the part of the case that I don't remember as well, so you get very tired, Pika, trying to figure this out. I think if he says he wasn't there, then there's, you know... Oh, there's silence. Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this? After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. And yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or to be exact, a handprint. Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects, that is, make my rounds, about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there. I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood. I love how we're just putting this in here, as if we have authorization for this. Witness, what is the meaning of this? Yeah, part of a bloody handprint is rather mysterious. How did that end up there? And it was also specifically wiped away, which indicates that someone might have tried to hide that. Your blood-stained fingerprints were at the crime scene. The blood was wiped away. However, a luminol test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall? Edgeworth probably signs off on all of our evidence without questioning it. God, I hope so, because if Phoenix ever got in trouble for this sort of thing, it would be bad. Real bad. It seems to me there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders. I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall? About the blood-stained fingerprints. Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints, found at the scene of the crime. Alright, Marshall, what the fuck is going on here, buddy? Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the blood-stained handprint. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The blood stain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Are they, though? Like, the fingerprint was distinctively placed in a way that made it look like it was his thumb. Yeah, Ark of the Covenant, a tactical nuke, half a bottle of vodka, all of this sounds. Oh my god. Or didn't you know that the murderer was wearing gloves? See, I had nothing to do with it. Yeah, well, we didn't get a fingerprint off on the bloody hand. We got a fingerprint off near it, didn't we? If I'm remembering correctly. The witness's explanation appears valid, although there's room for doubt. Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. This guy's hiding something. I can feel it. Now's my chance to prove it. Hell yeah, Phoenix. Let's start pressing. I think we'll start with the first statement. The other question I have for Marshall is, hey Marshall, how the fuck did you know that the killer was wearing gloves? Did someone tell you that? Did someone tell you that? Did you watch the video? Because you said you were out eating pasta at the time. Alright, let's start with statement one. This is the first thing I want to hear about. The attacker would have to place their hand exactly over Marshall's handprint for it to be in a different person. Yeah. And that's because you... How did you put it?
pay your respects once a month? Yeah, that's right. That and one more thing. That locker happens to be mine. What? What do you mean? I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker I still use. All that's in there now, though, is a heap of broken dreams. I see. It'd be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker. Apparently, his fingerprint data was never removed from that locker's programming. He must have been using the fingerprint block all this time without knowing it. Maybe, Phoenix. Found on Marshall's own locker. If he's not a detective and old case stuff is discarded, why does he still have one? Well, they just discarded the old case stuff the day of the crime, so if they were gonna change out whose lockers were whose, that would be the time that they would probably want to switch out Marshall's locker, I'd guess. By that logic, anyway. Okay. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The bloodstain and fingerprint are unrelated. How do you know that the murderer was wearing gloves, is my real question for Marshall here. How do you know that? I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports. There was a blood stain at the scene, thought to be left by the murderer. That's right. It was found on Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Oh yeah, I think we tried that too. So that would mean, if the murderer wearing gloves happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint. That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture? This seal of blood. In the desert, it's just food for the buzzards. It would smudge it all to hell, it really would. There's only one reality, and that's this. The security tape. So long as my trail isn't in there, you can't say otherwise. This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination. Oh God, okay. Yes, Your Honor. Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall. Okay. I'm gonna save again, because that sounded like a warning from the judge there. Too bad it wasn't me in that video, partner. Is the murderer the Steel Samurai? Oh, you mean Will Powers? God, What do you mean by that? You want to tie me to this crime, isn't that right, partner? Sorry you're late. Welcome, Technicolor Dusty. You've just missed my horrible Texan accent for a while. If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have. But the video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Blind spots. Places you can't see. The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't even shown. Throwing him under the bus would be a possibility here, but the likelihood of that working, I don't know. We gotta go through the video again. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without being caught on the tape. God, the fucking badger. We haven't even gotten that deep with the badger yet. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright. Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence in this video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do so now. Well, I only know this because I've played this before, but there is theoretical evidence that Marshall was there. Very well. Allow me to point to your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might be the one winding out making a mistake. Now then, let's have another look at the video. Show us this incriminating evidence of the witness, Officer Jake Marshall. So, there's one thing you want to keep an eye on while we're looking at this time in the video, and that's Jake Marshall's locker. Conveniently close to the door, potentially out of eyesight of the people coming in. So far there's nothing strange about the locker. There's nothing inside of the locker that's visible. We see everything that goes on with Goodman's locker that we went through last week, with the door already being opened. When we come back here, we see just Meekins and nothing in Officer Marshall's locker again. Let's continue on with the video. Meekins approaches Goodman. Goodman slashes him. They fight. Blood gets on the jacket. We go back to the other side of the screen. There's nothing strange in Officer Marshall's locker. How many times is this used as evidence? Yes. And then we're gonna pan back one more time. Pause. There it is. If you kept an eye on Officer Marshall's locker, every single time it's passed by in the video, there's nothing in it. But you remember from the crime scene that there's something in there, some sort of material, and only Officer Marshall could have opened it. Before then in the video, the light is not on, indicating that the fingerprint sensor wasn't opened, and the edge of that cloth suddenly appears. Get used to the blue Frick's dead stare. Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of the blue fucking badger this episode. But yeah, that's very suspicious, isn't it, Officer Marshall? Bringing our attention back to the security camera. Is a mistake I'm afraid you'll not soon forget, Officer Marshall. The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less? Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. It's your locker, which you admitted to. That locker with the white cloth sticking out, that was the witness's, I believe. Including very well it's 10, but you'll let it slide. I mean, if Marshall lets it slide, we can let it slide, right, chat? But yeah, there's a strange cloth in there, which, let's be honest, really does kind of implicate Marshall a lot. Because we know that whoever walked in here was impersonating Goodman, opened the locker, and then stabbed Meekins, and then would have to hide the jacket. If that piece of white cloth is the jacket that someone wore to impersonate Goodman, that really does implicate Marshall as quickly hiding it while the security camera was facing away from him. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit. Yeah, we're gonna be looking at this FMV for a long time. I hope you like it, chat. Oh, the white cloth. It's gone. What is the meaning of this, Officer Marshall? You only trust Gumshoe in the police department, and arguably Meekins, though they seem to be leaning on him. Meekins Listen, people like to call Gumshoe incompetent, but Meekins is pretty incompetent at his job. When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then, it suddenly appeared. That's the only explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room on the day of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away. Do Officer Marshall's cowboy boots have heels? Hold your horses. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man. So what if my locker was open? That doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened a locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault that he happened to choose mine. Yeah, no, but again, look at the video. The locker light was off until literally, and that means that it wasn't openable by anyone else. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? Thank you. Sorry to sneeze so loud. My aunt visited me today, and we went on a bit of a walk in the woods, and I think the pollen has gotten into my system. This guy isn't just playing dumb. He really doesn't know. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker. Yeah, sucks to be you, dude. Oh yeah? I call your bluff. You say I opened that locker. Now prove it. The evidence locker would be the first place I would start, and then the video if he doesn't believe me. Because he said it's his locker, only he can open it. Right? Right. Using a lot of CPU. One sec. Let me see if there's any other background programs I can close real fast. There we go. That should help. There we go. Got it. Evidence locker. We'll start there. Fingerprint sensor? We talked about this earlier today. We did, in fact, talk about it, Mr. Marshall. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to. What kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this. In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There are even some people on the force that don't know about the fingerprint locks. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less? I only got 1 word for you, partner. No! Newfangled tech, partner. Oh my. Order, order, order. Witness. Explain yourself. Confirmed Gumshoe is smarter than Marshall? It would seem so. It really would seem so. If this is a joke, it's the worst I've ever heard. I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us, what were you doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime? Olay, please answer the question. What is he now, a bullfighter? That's all right, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure out the rest from here. We can? Have a look at these floor plans. There is no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. That bit of jerky just won't tear off. No, it won't. Yet Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall. If that's so, then where was the witness? seems Mr. Wright has an answer.
Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
That's right. The only possible conclusion. Alright. Well, then let's hear it. I'm gonna save because I think I'm gonna do this right, but if I do it wrong, we reload. So, where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime? Assuming K means Meekins, he would be V. He has to be V. And then the white piece of cloth is the jacket. Great. We still haven't gotten even into SL9 at all. Officer Marshall is standing right here. There, but that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. K, no V. K was Killer. Killer was Meekins. Remember from last time. This is a very confusing case. Correct. Unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you, dressed up like a Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. May I point out, no, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. The names in this series are weird because most of them are puns. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his card, sir. Yes, and how did Detective Goodman respond? He suddenly pulled a knife on me. With all the high-quality spaghetti logic used in these cases, Phoenix should open a noodle shop. He really should. Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? Yes, he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card. Oh, I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized that the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? Let's be honest, yeah, Phoenix would earn more in another career. He could earn more at a noodle shop. He probably could. You've got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence. He's still denying it. You're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I've dressed up like the victim. I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. I'm gonna save again, because I am paranoid. Phoenix fills someone order, throws it down on the counter, and shouts, "Take that!" I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim? Well, who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take that desert heat. Desert heat? What the fuck is a desert heat? Okay. This can't be happening. It's so obvious he's the one. What can I do? Oh my. Edgeworth, are you about to help us? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone once told me when I was just starting out. When you run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. Yeah, freshly baked treat sounds nice. God, my aunt brought me a chocolate croissant to have for breakfast tomorrow, and I am so full of joy about that, to be honest. I wasn't expecting, like, any sort of presents, and the fact that she brought some is really sweet. The basics. I love you, Edgeworth. Edgeworth, like, listen, he can be a bastard sometimes, but he is legitimately a good person. Yeah, a croissant. A chocolate croissant. Really nice. For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Wait, does this mean that Mia knew Edgeworth? Wonder if that'll ever come up again. Probably not, right? Oh, it'll come up again. Phoenix, try thinking outside of the box. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise. But rather I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was opened in the first place? What do you mean? To hide evidence. In a rush, honestly. There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later, as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker. According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then after his crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. The fact that a right cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So, just what exactly is this piece of cloth? Perhaps the video is the key to all of our— No! Why more video? Why is it always the video? Alright. Hope you guys like FMV. Suffer. God, now I'm thinking of freaking musical songs, and I would sing the thing I'm thinking of, but like, it's from a song called the fucking Torture Tango, so, I mean, I don't think it's like Twitch safe. I'm pretty sure 90% of Spies Are Forever is not Twitch safe. This video alone makes the case grueling, it really does. Very well. Let's take yet another look at the security tape. After committing the crime, the witnesses opened a locker and put away a white cloth. Please show us why the witness had to open the locker. Let's go see the blood stain, because that's a good fucking reason, right? There's Goodman, who still looks taller than Goodman, which makes sense if he's not Goodman. Okay, no, this isn't good enough. There it is. Look at that. Blood-stained trench coat. That's gotta be good enough. At least they do let us fast forward, yeah. It's gotta be the blood-stained trench coat. For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room, though I don't know to what end yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. Also, what the fuck was his plan if he accidentally, like, killed Meekins? Like, he pulled a knife on a man. There's so many ways that struggle could end in death. A bloody white coat. You couldn't just walk out like that. So you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, partner. Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth? Well, apparently my neighborhood is ready to tell us, police sirens are the truth. Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago. If you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have had to be here now. Now would we? Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did. All of it. All right. And quit blaming Edgeworth for your own shitty action. You stabbed a man. Yeah, shoot, stab first, think later sounds like the Wild West. It does sound like the Wild West, but he also did commit assault. Regardless of if his reasoning was good or not, Meekins had nothing to do with this, and he was stabbed. Or slashed, rather. You know? Okay, you were on the fence before, but fuck this guy because of that comment. That reminds me of the post on, I saw recently on, the subreddit DM Academy, which is like, remember that people will hate villains less than they hate assholes. They're not wrong. Seems the time has come. Marshall's confession. I had to do it that day. I just couldn't stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and I dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. With a knife. You knocked him out with a knife. And managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. Okay, but what about the blood, though? There's a shit ton of blood in there. So the supposed victim was really you. But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found in the floor of the evidence room. Yeah, that has the vibes of Carl that kills people. Like Jake, stabbing people kills them. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. It was way too much blood for such a small donation. It really was. God, we got a lot to get through here. Alright. We're gonna save at the start of the evidence. I'm saving a lot in this case. I'm probably saving too much, but I can't help myself. What do you mean by it? What is the it that you couldn't let die? Hands don't bleed like that, they're not noses. No, I mean if he got a cut like on his forehead or he punched him in the nose, maybe I could believe that there was that much blood, but I don't think it would work that way, Marshall. When you say it, you mean. Do you even have to ask, partner? The SL9 incident. 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day. Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only that case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time, no matter what the cost. I don't know if I believe it was just to look at it then. Because why would you risk your life just to look at the evidence? Like, just to look at it and not take it with you or anything like that. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine. Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty obvious why you're so connected to SL9, given, you know, the fact that one of the victims of SL9 was Neil Marshall, who presumably is related. If it meant that much to so many people, why not ask Goodman to give it to you? Alright, then what's up with Goodman that you couldn't talk to Goodman about it? Is Goodman involved in some sort of corruption? But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that case. SL9 fucking hurts. Oh, we'll get there tonight. We'll get there. Why does he care so much about it? That day was my last chance. That's why I... You stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. You planned to take out evidence. Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card. I stole that the morning of the incident. So that really was why Goodman started filling out that lost item report, because his ID card was stolen by Jake Marshall. Yes, this case is an absolute wimp. Just ask him. No, he couldn't. I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking. What? Why would you leave it there? That's not even where his body is anymore. When did you do that? Excuse me? That's kind of important. The ID card I found was left by Officer Marshall. Okay, that's great and all, but what the fuck? You know? So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean that fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. When, why, how? Yeah, no, that's kind of important detail, Marshall. I mean, I assume he's stating that he did that when he was doing the investigating, but the way that the implication would be that he was there when Goodman was there. Because otherwise, why wouldn't you just slip it into the pocket of his corpse at the morgue? Which would make a lot more sense. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker by yourself. But he could have because of rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. Oh, fuck, this case gets real complicated here. Alright. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off. Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. An innocent person would have slipped it, back at the morgue. A smart person would have shredded the thing. Because if he was just trying to make it seem like, oh, you know, I took it for this one instance, then, of course, he would slip it back in at the morgue. A smart person, yeah, would have shredded the damn thing so that there would be no trace of it. Why would he leave it at the prosecutor's office parking lot? It's such a stupid move, implicating himself like that, unless he did it while he was investigating. In which case, also, why? I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekins certainly is a 1 in a million type person, mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID. I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year. Yeah, Meekins might actually be getting a raise. Honestly, it's thanks to Meekins we have this information at all, because he was thorough. He's practically face blind, but thorough. When did Edgeworth get so much influence? Anyway, he threw himself at me, and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out this way. with me knocking him out and everything. All you'll say is there's a reason for everything. A part of the frustration of the grueling nature of the case is to get information dripped to us. Oh yeah, you do. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say. He's trimming his beard with a knife that he used to slash another man. Alright, Marshall, that's a decision. So you knocked Officer Meekins out and managed to escape. I knew which areas I wouldn't get caught on camera, that makes sense. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15 p.m. You assume he sanitized it. God, I hope so. You know there's a reason, but you're working from the perspective of figuring it out, asking the questions which the game brings up, not poking holes in it, true. But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What are you, blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole the evidence from the locker. Actually, no, I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence? Oh, fuck. It's still missing, Your Honor. Yikes! Yikes, 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 yikes. Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Probably Goodman, judging by this logic so far. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. I'd better take another look at the files. Alright, I'm gonna save real quick and do a little more pressing because there's a piece of dialogue we need. Or someone hacked the locks. Or, if we're going with the demon gentleman theory, someone in charge of everything who could have overridden them. You're sure it'll turn up in Gant's beard or something like that? So you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think I would make a difference, though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat in a struggle with Officer Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing at the time? What else? He was slipping like a baby. So what you're saying is, on that day... Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer. This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. That was very deep for my judge voice. I just can't forget the SL9 incident. Do you know why? Well, we do know why. Though we're gonna have to press the statement first because the game is a little bit behind us. But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? As if we're in a world where perjury isn't a slap on the wrist, true? That's the reason the evidence stored in the locker room. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence. I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at that trial. Something no one will ever talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with this incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think his real reason is. Had a feeling we'll wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved is related to that case. Well, we know what it is. Someone related to him died. Presumably closely. Or at least that's part of it. Someone falsified the falsification. Oh god. Please, this case. Time to remind him of his trauma. I'm sorry, Marshall. I feel a bit like a dick. But, here we go. Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned here. In a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall. Yeah, I'm sure you heard the name. 2 years ago. He received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. What? A prosecutor? He must be talking about the King of Prosecutors award. Cactus juice, it's the quenchiest. Oh, yeah. And that makes me think of Avatar. It really does. I miss that show. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. Oh, no. That's right. He was killed. And the case fell into your hands. But what's his relation to you? He was my brother. I'm sorry, Marshall. I feel mean doing this. He was investigating the murders with Damon Gant, the Gen Jeopardy chief of police. Gee, guys, I wonder if Damon Gant murdered him, because it seems like it. The Demon Man strikes again. Sorry, I was just having some, cactus juice. And by that I mean, iced tea. Prosecutor Neil Marshall sounds like Captain Jack Sparrow a lit. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was killed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least, according to the public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it. That's your reason for your insane actions. There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day that the SL9 case could be reopened. No, Gant couldn't have been specifically Joe Dark. Joe Dark is dead. Sorry. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has been finally cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. Fuck. Right, we were trying to prove that something might have happened there. Edgeworth still wins. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time at the murder at the prosecutor's office. The evidence is still missing. Yeah, something's wrong here. This fake murder was going on at the police department. By the way, remember that thing we were actually doing? Oh yeah, right. Lana Sky. Forgot about that in the past 3 hours. Chance. It's gotta be more than just that. So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot is the real one. Which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Sky. But wait, a verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of simultaneous murder at the police department. Seems to me, this boy's got the draw on you, partner. All of the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murderer took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Sky, and the testimony of one Miss Angel Star is completely incontestable. She lied a lot, though. Are we just gonna ignore that part? If you have a response, make it a single word or less. I rest my case. Seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security tape was really fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. The court finds the defendant... Oh. Emma. Your Honor, wait. Emma. The defense has an objection. A scientific objection. Right? What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor? Well, in a sense. Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking is for a minute of your time. I love how the judge is like, Mr. Wright, how many children are you adopting? Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings. Now that she mentions it, the names of both Sky Sisters were on that file. Everyone just casually assumes he runs a foster home. That's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing. The other handprint.
You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on it, right?
No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and I looked at it again.
So did you find something?
No.
Huh?
Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all.
Is that all?
Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student.
And I'm just an attorney.
But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them, please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you.
Me? Oh boy! Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright.
Oh god, what else is there that we can... Well, there is something else in the evidence room, isn't there? It's time for us to make the fucking Blue Badger relevant.
With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, the handprint was discovered around here.
Here's the thing. Was that handprint in the video? Theoretically. Alright, I'm sorry to do this to you, chat, but we're gonna look at the video because something would be blocking that specific locker that would have had the bloody handprint. It's the Blue Badger. The Blue Badger blocks that specific locker for the whole video. It was covered by the Blue fucking Badger.
Is there a problem with this?
Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana would be...
Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day.
Yes, Your Honor. If ever I've needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with that handprint Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing? I object. This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction.
The only thing that seems clear is you're grasping, Mr. Wright.
Hey, welcome, Ed. We're trying. We're doing our best. This case is a mess.
You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them?
Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing.
Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn there?
Absolutely. You're still hung up on the evidence was already missing thing and the vase completely covered in blood. I'm also hung up on the massive pool of blood in the corner that couldn't have been from Meekins. Will completely change the meaning of that blood mark. I think I missed a line.
Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright.
With all this evidence here, there's got to be something I can use.
The question is, which item can prove something is missing in the floor plans?
It's the Blue Badger. What about that piece of plywood? The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force. Defender of the truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not here. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well,
what?
oh. That's right. So long as the blue badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint at this spot on the locker.
What? So that means...
Am I being raided? Hi! Welcome! Oh my! Hot dogs are complicated, stars are not. I guess so. It means it can't be done. Welcome to the Raiders. Hi to Billy. Good to see ya. We're in hell, but we're very happy to have you along for the maze that we're digging ourselves out of.
What do you say? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker.
Don't look at me. I didn't put it there. Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically. Hello, hell is cool. Actually, I think hell is warm. You can grill hot dogs in hell, that's true. I'm gonna lean back from my microphone and take a long sip of water there. We're about to meet the devil itself, the Blue Badger. He has come to haunt us all, not the Blue Badger. Even Satan quakes at the sight of the Blue Badger. Emma, on that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker. Would the Blue Badger ask us to play a fiddle against him? Or the best song in the world? I don't know. So that must mean that this blood mark was left there before the Blue Badger was brought in?
Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom.
It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once, but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape, taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is the other time. Oh my. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered.
That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim.
The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, this sounds... Listen, Phoenix, trying. That does not explain the blood mark found on the locker.
So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place?
I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. Well, we do have, I have so much evidence, one sec. Ah, here it is. The ID card record. Okay, honestly, Edgeworth, this doesn't look great for you. It really doesn't look great for you, Edgeworth. Oopsie. We're implicating the boyfriend. Before Edgy's parking ticket, which means that, the handprint must have gotten there, before the Blue Badger got in there. Theoretically 420. Honestly, I mean, the only evidence that Edgeworth didn't do it is that he would probably have noticed that, right? Unclear. 420. Ah, I love you guys. 420 indeed. When did the first incident occur?
To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman.
You still wish the ID was 69, 69, 69? Yeah, someone just picked lucky sevens and ruined the joke.
Another incident took place in that room.
He would have noticed since he's the one with the Blaze brain cell. Blaze, the best Sonic the Hedgehog character. Confession, I really haven't played much Sonic the Hedgehog. That's right. The blood mark on the locker proves this.
Very well, then tell us, when did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, evidence must be presented.
Okay, well, I mean, the best we got is the report, so we're gonna do Blaze the cat. She's purple. She's a purple cat, I know that. Blaze is the best, and this is a fact. Good to know. I haven't seen anything with Blaze in it in about, 6 years, but I do remember liking her back in the day. Proof that shows when the murder took place. There's only one piece of evidence that can show that.
Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? What shows when the first time crime took place?
You mentioning Sonic remind you of the cursed OC. Oh dear. That's a sentence. ID card record. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, the killer would have had to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required. Oh, right. God, I think that I had, honestly repressed Reborny, so thank you for the horrific memories of yet another one of my friend Nathan's tabletop characters that are cursed as hell.
An ID card. Oh, the ID card record.
Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at,
let's see here, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40 p.m.
Whoopsie. Sorry, Edgy. Miles Edgeworth, just what have you done?
I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me.
Who's pinning this on Edgeworth again? Well, it seems likely that someone is specific. Gee, hey chat, I wonder who's pinning this on Edgeworth. Who told him to go get evidence out of the locker room directly at that time and could have had 20 minutes in between to cover up his own evidence? I wonder if it's fucking Damon Gant, god damn it. Meekins did it. Was definitely Lucky Sevens. Yeah, no shit, chat. No shit, chat. Nope, I ain't getting it.
I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have just had 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry the body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room.
God damn it, Orange Lassant. Lysander. Lysanderoth, it was you! Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card remaining. 777-7777.
Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. Why do they suddenly all have brain cells? Welcome to writing. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 777777. Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 77777777. That's 1 7 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I am unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least at present. What? Explain yourself, son. The ID number 77777777 belongs to someone with the rank of captain or higher. Someone who is a so-called executive officer. It's fucking Gant, chat! Who else could it be? We don't have authority to inquire into such a person's identity. But that's ridiculous. Just how... I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official charge is filed against an executive. An official charge. You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you kept your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask you a question. Yes? No, not to you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana. Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we've looked up her ID number. And it's not 777777. Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident. The SL9 incident. Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really use only legitimate evidence? Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, occasionally, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least I did. Oh shit. Lana? I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant, just what are you saying? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look at me, an investigator in that crime, and say that you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't. I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana... Even if it involved forging evidence. Well, fuck, we're screwed. That isn't an answer, though. See, that's what I'm talking about. No. No. Order. 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 Lana's remarks caused such a stir. The chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial would have to wait until the following day.
Alright. Well then. We got another day of investigation, and then we gotta figure all of this out. February 24th, 3:12 p.m. Wright & Co. Law Offices.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Wright. I'm sorry for what my sister said. Drastic crimes require drastic measures.
How many witnesses tomorrow? 3? 4? All of them? I'm thinking all of them.
That's just the way it is. We did what we had to do in order to get him the verdict he deserved. I don't know. I never knew that the SL9 incident was just another name for the Joe Dark killings.
Sounds like everyone's heard about these killings but me.
Lana wanted Drake Dark convicted so badly. That's why she used me. That's why she used what happened to me.
What do you mean, what happened to you?
It's all there in the file. Joe Dark's last victim was Prosecutor Neil Marshall. When he murdered Officer Marshall's brother, he left behind an incriminating piece of evidence.
But what did you have to do with those killings, Emma?
On the night Prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered, Joe Dark tried to kill me.
What? He tried to kill you?
Officer Marshall's brother, Neil, was only trying to save me.
So that means you...
Yes. I was a witness to the Joe Dark trial.
I didn't see that one coming.
It happened 2 years ago. It was right about this time of year, too. There was a terrible thunderstorm that day, unusual for the season. I was alone in my sister's office. We were planning to eat dinner together once she finished her work. Then suddenly, this terrifying man came bursting into the office.
Why was she targeted? If he was bursting into Lana Sky's office, was it really Emma Sky who was targeted? Or was it Lana? Joe Dark.
It seemed like he was running from someone. He pulled a knife and screamed at me. I didn't know what was going on. Just then, Prosecutor Marshall showed up.
Jake Marshall's brother.
Joe Dark tried to take me hostage, but before he could, Mr. Marshall tackled him. Then...
What happened?
I'll never forget it. Lightning struck and the lights went out. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashed outside the window, lighting up the office for an instant. What I saw then burned a permanent picture in my mind. I can still see it now.
A permanent picture.
I don't remember the moment when Dark stabbed Mr. Marshall.
So you weren't able to testify about that?
No, I was only asked about when I was attacked. That must be why she made up the crime.
Made it up? You mean... provided bogus evidence. I need water. There we go.
The prosecutor's office wanted that guilty verdict so badly. Lana forged the evidence and Mr. Edgeworth used it.
Edgeworth?
Yes, but I'm sure he didn't know anything about it. He couldn't have known he was being given false evidence. Even so, that's when it all started. The rumors about Mr. Edgeworth, I mean. It's all my fault. I could have just testified properly. None of this would have happened.
So it's true, even though he may not have known it. Yeah, Emma needs a therapist. Edgeworth really was involved with falsifying evidence. After that case ended, Lana was never the same. Remember this 4 games from now. Yeah, please do. She became cold, like she is today. She must not have been able to face up to what she did, especially not to Emma. What did you see the instant that the crime occurred? Drake knocked down Mr. Marshall and raised his knife. Neil Marshall was stabbed right in front of this poor girl. I don't remember what happened after that. Apparently, I passed out. When I came to, Lana was cradling me in her arms. Poor Emma. You've been through so much. Okay. So, I think we do need to focus on probably the most notable thing of this. Emma didn't see the actual stabbing. She saw Joe Dark tackle him with the knife. But she didn't see the stabbing. I couldn't bring myself to testify about that instant. I tried, but the words just wouldn't come out. I drew a picture, but it wasn't any good. 2 years ago. You must have been 14. That's understandable. Once it was all over, I made up my mind. I decided that when I grew up, I'd become a scientific investigator. I want to be able to fight crime with my testimonies and find the evidence to make an airtight case. That way, Lana would never have to forge any. I see. I think I'm finally starting to understand what makes Emma tick. But there's still something that bothers me about that crime. There's something that's puzzling me, Emma. What is it? You said you were in Lana's office at that time, right? That's right. Why then would a serial killer come running in there? Not only that, but he was being chased by a prosecutor? Oh, there's no mystery there. Joe Dark had been taken in for questioning that day. Taken in for questioning? You mean by the police? Of course, this happened at the police department. He tried to run away halfway through the interview and fled into my sister's office. But why did he run all the way into your sister's office? Because the detective offices in the questioning room are right across from the elevator. Across from the elevator? But Lana was the chief prosecutor, wasn't she? No, silly. Didn't I tell you? 2 years ago, Lana was a detective. What? Ma'am, what? Did Lana intentionally forge evidence, or was she made to do so by someone else? She was the best in the entire force. What? That's news to me. After the Joe Dark case, she was transferred to the prosecutor's office and made chief prosecutor. What? Emma. So a detective with very little to no prosecutorial experience, following a case in which she forged evidence, was immediately made chief prosecutor. What? Lana used to be a detective. I'd better have another talk with her. Yeah, this does change things a lot. I don't know why I'm saving in the middle of an investigation. It just makes me feel better. Still better than the previous chief prosecutor, not gonna lie. Yeah? She was a scapegoat. It would appear so. February 24th, Detention Center. visitor's room. Lana? Mr. Wright, it seems I keep causing you trouble. Falsifying evidence. I didn't think you were the type. Criminals don't mind playing foul. Why should we? The former chief prosecutor has not shown up in person. We have only heard their voice on a phone call, and they will not be here for a long time. Manfred von Trauma is not. They don't show up in a mainline game. They do not. No. They show up in a spinoff. But Lana, if you're wrong, an innocent person might be found guilty. Believe me, I understand the risks. Lana, Emma told me about you. Oh? About how you were a detective 2 years ago, and how the SL9 incident was the reason for your transfer to the prosecutor's office. That's right. Could you fill me in on the details, especially about that unusual change of jobs? I suppose you have a right to know, Mr. Wright. A lot of revelations were uncovered at the trial today, not the least of which was the fact that this case is largely connected to another one 2 years ago. Evidence from that case was stolen as well, though I suspected as much. I know how obsessive Officer Marshall can be. That trial, it really wasn't fair, was it? I believed in you, Lana. I believed that no matter what happened, you would always stick to the truth. It couldn't be helped, Emma. At that trial 2 years ago, I sold my soul. Well, all drama aside, the fact of the matter is, at 5:15, there was no murder at the police department. Tell me it's not true, Lana. What the witness, what Miss Starr said. About you stabbing Mr. Goodman with a knife. Lana, I don't understand. Why won't you tell us? Emma, this doesn't involve just me. Oh. So who does it involve? I don't think I've ever seen Lana look so fazed before. They had 4 detectives working that case, and still had forged evidence. This smells like a Serb strumming factory. Oh, it does. It's true. I was a member of the police force 2 years ago. She was amazing. They still talk about all the cases she and Chief Gant cracked together. Chief Gant. He was the deputy chief of police back then, but he still worked on the crime scenes. Damon Gant. He was everything I aspired to be. They were the best team ever. They solved crimes before the reports could even be filed. Oh God. What? Yeah, welcome. I'm sorry, did you think that hell meant just the Blue Badger? We have more webs to untangle. Emma really idolizes her big sister. But now you're chief prosecutor. What happened? I always planned on becoming a prosecutor. The reason I became a detective was to gain experience investigating crime scenes, so you could use that experience in court, right? Gant's help in the SL9 case was crucial to its resolution. He forged the evidence. Do you read my lips, Phoenix? After that, he became chief of police and arranged my transfer to the prosecutor's office. Maybe I should ask more about this investigation of theirs 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was second in command of detectives investigating Dark. Second in command, that means the investigation lead was Damon Gant, right? Yes, Detective Chief Gant and I shared the same office and the same investigations. You shared the same office that Neil was murdered in a scene that Emma couldn't remember or see. Gee, I wonder. They even had the same office. We had the team of the best detectives on the force. Detective Goodman, whose case it was, Jake Marshall, and Angel Starr. It was the first time Marshall worked with his brother. He was quite gung-ho. Without a doubt, Joe Dark was the serial killer. We asked him to come in for questioning. We were desperate for evidence. Oh, I'm sorry. That was when his final murder took place. When he tried to murder Emma. Prosecutor Marshall was trying to save me from Drake. You see, the first person who happened upon the scene of the crime was me. Now you tell us. Damon Gant and Neil Marshall were the ones questioning Drake that day. I'm sorry, all of this points to Gant. Literally. It happened in his office. He was the one questioning Joe Dark. He would have the perfect opportunity with the lights out to kill Marshall without anyone noticing. The real question is, why would he do it? The investigation was in its final stages, and Dark must have suddenly panicked. So he waited until Gant and Marshall let their guards down and fled the room. From there, he ran straight to the office shared by the Deputy Chief Gant and myself. That's where he found me. So you were the first person to run into the scene, Lana. It appears so. I was filing some papers while Gant and Marshall were questioning Drake. When I returned to my office, I saw 3 bodies on the floor and smelled blood. 3 bodies. Prosecutor Marshall, the victim, Emma, who had passed out, and the suspect, Joe Dark. During the struggle, it seems Mr. Marshall struck a final blow before he died. No. No way. That's so sus. It's so fucking sus. Why would Gant not be the first one there? He would be. There's no reason that he wouldn't have come in around the time Marshall did. And honestly, I find it entirely unbelievable that if Marshall was dying from a stab wound, that he'd be able to knock someone out. I'm sorry, I don't buy that. I really don't. Joe Dark had incurred a minor concussion and lay unconscious. What did you do? To be honest, I panicked. Understandable, I would also probably panic. I picked up Emma, carried her out of the room, and just held her. Can't blame her after all her sister must have gone through. After that, I placed Dark under immediate arrest. Let me get this straight. You were all involved in the SL9 incident. That's right. Quite a coincidence. I don't buy it. What are you saying? There's no way everyone involved in this trial was also involved in that incident just by chance. But that case was solved 2 years ago. You probably would have given Dark an accidental kick yourself, but sure. Yeah, honestly, if it were me, and this was my sibling, and I personally don't have any siblings, but I can imagine the closeness of a dear family relationship. And they were potentially injured by a serial killer who's now lying on the floor, potentially dead or unconscious, with a body of one of my colleagues on top of them. I also think my first reaction would be get my sister out of danger and also probably have a panic attack. Officer Marshall. Yes, his actions came off as a surprise to me as well. Ever since his brother died, he changed completely. I guess he wasn't convinced with the ruling against Joe Dark. Life doesn't end with the closing of a case. Everyone has to live the rest of their lives with their memories. That case just might not be over yet. Huh? Emma was assaulted by Jark at the police department, right? Yes, in the office that Damon Gant and I shared. The office that Mr. Gant now occupies by himself. The Chief's office. Maybe we should have a look at the Chief's office. The site of the final SL9 murder. Oh boy. I'm sure we're not gonna get tased again. Just like last time, because that went so well. Thank you, Emma. Not Emma. Thank you, Lana. And thank you, Emma, as well. Both of you have been actually very helpful today. We gotta go to the police department. Which I believe we have to go to the law offices to get to. The award. Oh, whoa. The Broken Award. Yes, that one. Wouldn't it be a convenient thing to give someone a small concussion with, don't you think? I like how Lycosone is catching on. The shield is broken. They only flashed that image for a moment of Neil Marshall with the shield, but I don't know, chat, did it look broken then? We have the VOD, you're welcome to check. February 24th, Police Department entrance. Howdy, Bambino. Oh, Mr. Marshall. I never thought things would turn out this way when I woke up this morning. Que sera, sera. You never know where life will lead you, Bambino. I should have known my luck had run out when old Billy dried up this morning. Billy? Must be his pet cactus. Say, where are you headed? Just over to the prosecutor's office for a little interrogation. It's a voluntary appearance, but we all know I won't be coming back. Sorry, but you can't go into the evidence room today, partner. But Mr. Marshall, why did you do it? A lot of prospectors head west. If ever there was a case I needed to know the truth about, it was that one. But before you turn yourself in, Officer Marshall, would you mind telling us exactly what happened? Looks like I won't be getting a steak lunch today. I'm sorry, Marshall. I would go get you a steak lunch if I could. You've been through a lot. Something was fishy about that trial from the beginning. It wasn't just me, either. All the detectives thought so. What do you mean, fishy? Some of the facts reported were inconsistent with the evidence we found. For example, the murder weapon. The murder weapon? You mean the switchblade knife that you had the broken tip? That was Joe Dark's, alright. But in the initial autopsy report, a question was raised. A question? The blade of the knife was not a perfect match with the wound the victim sustained. Oh boy. What does that mean? It means there is a good chance the knife was not the murder weapon. Oh. However, in the report that was finally submitted, the possibility had been erased. Could the facts have been concealed with forged evidence? I mean, don't get me wrong. Joe Dark is a murderer. He killed a lot of other people. But it would appear that he is the fall guy here. I would agree. That case left scars on all of us. The scars that the SL9 incident left behind. I got the looks, but he got the brains. Officer Marshall admits to being a himbo. He was one of the best prosecutors around. I just made detective when I went down. It was our first case together. How old was he? Your brother? He was 27 at the time. God, that's so young. Deceased. Joe Dark is also deceased. He was awarded the highest honor that very day. The highest honor? You mean the King of Prosecutors? I knew it. What are you looking at me with that like that for? It's an honor for a prosecutor. Dead men tell no tales, indeed. Mr. Marshall must have been really close with his brother, yeah. The day the SL9 incident took place, wasn't that the same day as... That's right. It was the day the evidence transferal. Oh my. Interesting. So, it was the day of evidence transferal 2 years ago. Let's just make everything a little bit spicier, shall we? It was drizzling that morning, and by nightfall there was thunder. I can't believe 2 years have gone by already. I tried to steal the evidence so the case wouldn't die. Apparently someone tried to stop you. Detective Goodman was murdered, and the evidence locker was empty. There was something going on behind the scenes in that case. We all knew that later. Every detective involved in it, save one, was taken care of. Oh. He's not wrong. Marshall was demoted. Angel Star was sacked completely. Detective Goodman hasn't been on anything important since. And eventually he was murdered. Detective Goodman was killed, lest we forget. That leaves just Lana Skye, who was pushed into the prosecutor's office for some reason. What was being transferred? Wait, wasn't there another case number we had? There is. We have, the, Screwdriver Gant requested specifically. AI-16. Tonight's a gunshots or fireworks kind of night, Chad, ain't it? Oh, my town, anyway. Miss Starr was fired, and I was demoted and boxed away in a tiny room. What about Detective Goodman? If they did something to him, too, the commissioners would get suspicious. No, they were careful enough not to be too obvious. AI would come before SL in the number scheme. It would. They? Who are you talking about? Don't get upset, Bambina. I mean Damon Gant and Lana Scott. The investigation lead, Damon Gant, and his second-in-command, Lana Scott. There wasn't a person on the force who hadn't heard of that duo. That case was the biggest step in both of their careers. After the case ended, Lana was transferred to the prosecutor's office, right? Yeah, Damon Gant, the new chief of police, arranged for that to happen. She's never been the same since she left. Huh? Everyone who knew her said so. Chief Prosecutor Skye was totally different when she was a detective. Now that he mentioned it, Emma said something like that too. Tell me, what happened to my sister? Sorry, Bambina, but her secret is too well guarded. I never found out. Lana's secret. It all started 2 years ago. Man, this would be so much easier if we had a certain, magical artifact that could let us look into the locks on people's hearts or something. Real shame that we don't get that or anything until redacted. That would really help here. So there you have it. That's my story. Did you enjoy it, Bardner? It was certainly enlightening. There's one thing for sure I found out in court today. That boy Edgeworth, isn't my enemy. Ooh. He was the one who used the falsified evidence to get a guilty verdict. But someone else was the one who gave him that evidence and planned everything. Okay. You know, in the end, I honestly do like Marshall. He's horribly traumatized. He's desperately trying to solve this case where his brother was murdered. And yes, I do think that he should be punished for his crimes. He did commit assault against a man who was completely uninvolved. I think that slashing Meekins, even though it was an act of desperation, was extreme. But I can respect that he's actually forgiving of someone he knows isn't involved. That someone is Damon Games. Don't believe me? Well, I don't blame you. I won't even be a patrolman after today. Honestly, too bad I won't be around to work with you. Listen. Let him pay, but he apologized for bad-mouthing the boyfriend. He did. Well, you know what, Marshall? I respect you as a dude. I hope that whatever your sentence is, it isn't too bad, and that you can at least find some fulfillment in life. Even if your fulfillment is just getting a bunch of cactuses and opening a saloon. That sounds wonderful. Also, cactuses is not the plural, it's cacti. But I am also very tired, so... Marshall is one of your favorite witnesses. He's a really good witness. He really is. When you become a real scientific investigator. Well, hopefully by then you'll have your own little Texas saloon and bar and you'll be living out your life peacefully. That's all I can hope for him, is that he gets some closure and that he has a peaceful life from now on. Adios, Bambino. Thank you, Marshall. Criminal Affairs. February 24th, Police Station, Criminal Affairs Department. Marshall's Wild West Saloon sounds bliss. I hope that he gets something like that out of life. I mean, he deserves it. I mean, he deserves peace, for one thing. Please, give the man a break, but also he deserves that. This place is always pretty empty, but today it's deserted. That must mean everyone's busy solving crimes. Oh, if you're looking for the others, they're all in the conference room. Thanks. Wow, he actually talked to us. With the chief prosecutor saying what she did and about this decision, what to do about Mr. Edgeworth, not only to mention her statement to the media and tomorrow's trial. There's more chaos going on than Thanksgiving and Christmas put together. I think festive is the word usually referred to for those. Man, what is this man's house like? He must have, like, 2 uncles on extreme ends of the political spectrum who argue all the time. Consider a spin-off game that is running a bar in this universe and serving all the delightful clowns that exist in it. That sounds wonderful. The holidays are chaos. The holidays! God, yeah. Sir? We'd like to have a look around Chief Gant's office. Just use the connecting hallway to the other building and take the elevator to the top floor. Really? You mean it's okay for us to go there? I mean, we aren't police officers or anything. Hey, you're right. You can't go in there. It's off limits. Now I see where Detective Gumshoe gets his unique charm. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's head to the chief's office. I can imagine that working at a liquor store from Thanksgiving to New Year's is a portal to hell. Emma, please. Please, Emma. Alright. You know, in case you weren't already convinced that this bitch is literally a villain, the man has a fucking pipe organ. A pipe organ in his office. So he can sit there in his demon outfit and ominously play the Dies Irae.
was gonna get us tased. You forgot about the organ. I mean, is there a piece of equipment more suspicious to have in your house? In a concert hall? Sure. In a cathedral? Sure. In your office? A fucking pipe organ. Whoa. Where am I? In the chief's office, silly. Honestly, okay, we're stealing that and giving it to Edgy, right? No, I don't know how we're gonna lift it. Edgy can lift it. Edgy can lift a lot. Oh god. Also, this does go along with my idea that he looks like a fucking cult leader, because this place literally looks like a church. He's like one of those people who tries to scam you out of your money on TV. And I mean that in the most derogatory way possible. In the chief's office, silly. At least that's what it said on the door. Check out that pipe organ. That's real, isn't it? Hey, I used to take organ lessons in kindergarten. They used to call me Little Miss Bach. I thought I was a genius until they tried teaching me notes. Televangelist, yes, yes. He really does look like certain quote readers crossed with a televangelist. That's what he feels like to me. I know they were going demon with him, but all of the Christian imagery ends up reading more as, like, someone abusing their power. So, a cult leader, like, mashed with a televangelist. I could never remember where C was. Oh, fuck. Hi. Oh, it's you two. Chief Gant. He put that paper he was reading on his desk. So, Righto, have you been swimming lately? No, I haven't. I've been kind of busy lately. I can appreciate that. I've had my hands full too with Mr. Marshall's misconduct and Lana's provocative statement. Provocative statement? Oh, you mean about the forged evidence. 2 years have passed since the incident. My, how time flies. The motherfucking organ plays when he enters the room. If it wasn't more obvious who the villain was. His design originally came from Zeus mixed with a television presenter, so televangelist isn't surprised. Yeah, honestly, I can see the Zeus with the lightning bolts in his hair, but like, Jesus, he really does look like a televangelist mixed with a cult leader. See that big picture on the wall over there? Hey guys, there was a sword on the King of Prosecutors Award. Remember what they said about Neil Marshall's injuries? And how they didn't match up with the weapon that was supposedly used to murder him? There is no sword on the King of Prosecutors Award now. And the King of Prosecutors Award sword just so happens to have a cutout, conveniently, right in the same sort of area that the switchblade knife does. Also, look in the back of that room in Damon Gant's office. You'll see something else of note. A certain amphora. Also in his fucking office. The same amphora that's stained with blood. Can we also talk about how the organ music is called Swimming, anyone? Yep, it is. So this is Mr. Marshall's brother, Prosecutor Neil Marshall. We took it to commemorate our work together. Something's not right with this picture. I can't quite seem to put my finger on it, though. Well, Phoenix can't, but we definitely can. Gant team picture. Photo at the award ceremony of Gant, Lana, and Neil. As if we couldn't get any more sus of him. He's so sus. Phoenix, you him bim, apparently so. Anyway, I'd like to reminisce about the day, but there are matters that need my attention. I'm going to lock up here, so let's go out together. Oh, but this office, it was a crime scene 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Oh, that case has long since been over. There's no need to investigate it anymore. All the same, we'd still like to have a look around. Perhaps you didn't hear me. I said there's no need to investigate it anymore. Now hurry up and get out. I have a meeting to attend. Well, looks like we aren't welcome. It seems that the case isn't over with yet after all. What do you mean? Chief Gant denied our request to search the crime scene. That means there must be a reason he didn't want us looking around there. You mean like a clue? There's gotta be a way we can get inside the chief's office. Time for some good and old-fashioned breaking and entering. You're surprised there isn't a character named Misconduct in this place. Yeah, me too. Oh, hey, pal. Detective Gumshoe, aren't you supposed to be in a meeting? I'm just taking a breather. My feet hurt. From sitting so long? Actually, from serving everyone coffee. Sounds like Detective Gumshoe's still out of the loop. Say, have either of you seen Mr. Edgeworth? Edgeworth? No. Why do you ask? He's under fire from both the police office and the prosecutor's office. It's almost like the battles between you two in court. That sounds serious. Is it because of what my sister said? That's basically what it all boils down to. That falsified evidence 2 years ago. Now Mr. Edgeworth has the whole world after his blood. Yikes. Edgeworth's crisis. But why would Edgeworth be blamed? It's not like he knew the evidence was forged. If only it were that convenient in this universe. Lana Skye is the guilty party here, isn't she? Regardless, a prosecutor is responsible for the evidence they present in court. Not only that, but as you know, there's been a lot of rumors going around about Mr. Edgeworth. His amazing talent as prosecutor kept him safe from those who didn't like them. But now, with this, are there really so many people who hate him? In our world, only those with talent rise to the top. Mr. Edgeworth not only has that, but he's young. There's no better recipe I know for making enemies. Jesus Christ, Gumshoe is spitting out wisdom today. Hey Dick, keep up the good work. Yes, sir. Let's go out for lunch again sometime. My treat. Yes, sir. You gotta take me back to that joint sometime, okay, Dick? Oh, yes, sir. Seems you don't have any problems with enemies. Yeah, well, I'm careful not to stick out. Anyway, I'm a bit worried about him. Under all this pressure, I'm afraid Mr. Edgeworth just might crack. I can't say anything! It's a lot of pressure, yeah. Honestly, you like that they added this case before the next game, knowing what happens. It adds a lot more complexity to Edgeworth's arc. It does. Muffled sobbing. Yeah, no, I just literally held a pillow to my mouth and screamed into it. Actually, I took a look at the file earlier while the coffee was brewing. He seems genuinely concerned for Edgeworth. Well, did you find anything? The only evidence Dark left behind was during his final attack. His final attack? You mean when he killed Prosecutor Marshall, who was trying to protect some girl? Me. Seems Detective Gumshoe never realized Emma was the girl. And that's when he left the most incriminating evidence of all. Well, what was it? Oh, let me see. I think it had something to do with the murder weapon. Oh, I forget. Look, it's all written somewhere in here, okay? You're impressed at the amount of expression they put into Just Gumshoe's eyebrows. It's like 3 to 4 frames of animation. It shows his feelings wonderfully. It really does. His powers of recollection never fail to impress. Maybe we should show him the murder weapon. It might jog his memory. Alright. So, hey there, buddy. Wrong murder weapon. The amount of murder weapons in my inventory is too damn high. About this. Hey, is that? It has a tag attached to it with the label SL9 incident on it. I believe this would be the broken murder weapon you were speaking of. What are you doing with that? Ever since that case was closed, that knife's been locked away in the locker. On the day Detective Goodman was murdered, this suddenly disappeared from the locker and was found in Mr. Edgeworth's car muffler. That's it. Now I remember the incriminating piece of evidence was. When you showed me that knife, it all came back to me. Well, what is it, Detective? Quick, before you forget again. This knife. It was Joe Dark's, wasn't it? That's right. We traced it back to the store he bought it at. Plus it had his fingerprints on it, too. But no one actually witnessed him using it to murder anyone, right? That's where his luck ran out. When you take a good look at the knife, you'll see it's broken. You don't have to take a good look to notice that. Yeah, well anyway, take a guess at where the broken off tip of the knife was found. That's what did him in. Where was it? The victim, Neil Marshall, was carrying it inside his own body. It was found deep inside the stab wound. Did it match Dark's knife? Oh, you bet, down to the last fiber. That's pretty conclusive. Neil's autopsy report. Here's the thing. Stabbed in the back. Died from a punctured heart and lung. From the image we've seen captured in Emma's memory, Neil was down, but Dark was stabbing towards his front. Also, from the image we saw after in Lana's memory, he's collapsed on top of Dark. There's no way that Dark could have stabbed him in the back. But Gant could have. You need a long knife for that too. True, not only was he stabbed in the back, but he was stabbed. A switchblade, for the record, to make that much penetrative damage would need to be pushed with way more force, than, say, a big-ass sword. But more than that, yeah, there's a lot of sus shit here. We already know from Marshall that, that didn't match initially. Alright. I think this is sus. Joe Dark was 42 at the time of the crime. He was just your run-of-the-mill businessman. A businessman? What made him take to serial killing? One day on his way home from work, he hit someone with his car. With his car? So it was an accident. An accident, yes, but it transformed him into an animal. An animal? He killed a man that witnessed the accident. Then he killed the lady who saw the second crime. A kid walked by just then, so he killed him too. Then while he was burying the bodies, a jogger came upon the scene and was killed as well. Finally, he turned himself in. Seems he was a pretty careless animal. Of course, this is all conjecture. There wasn't a single shred of evidence. So he turned himself in. Yes, but in the middle of his questioning, he fled and murdered his final victim, Prosecutor Marshall. The crime was witnessed by someone too, but luckily Dark was arrested at the spot. It's a good thing that last witness wasn't killed. That last witness, aka Emma. Well, there you have it in a nutshell. That's all I know. Can I ask you one more thing? What is it? If it's money you need, you should ask Chief Gant. It's not money, but it does concern the chief. His office is a crime scene, right? It's where Prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered. The chief is out now and his office is locked, but we'd like to have a look around if that's okay. Well, any detective's ID card can... I'm so sorry, Bruce. Can unlock the door. Bruce, we are going to continue using your ID card. Neil's actually turning around back to face Drake. That image is interesting. What? Why? We're gonna use the detective ID card to unlock the door, obviously. What? Really? But if I let a civilian in there, I'd be charged with breach of trust. Breach of trust? Simply put, I'd be can't. Oh. Sorry, pal. I don't plan on getting fired because of you. How about this ID card? It was Detective Goodman's. That won't work either. The data was deleted the day he died. Oh. So in other words, Gumshoe is our only chance of getting into that office. I wonder if there's something we could show him that would make him change his mind. Well, there was something else in Gant's office, right? You know, the jar. Neil Marshall. Neil Marshall's dead. Also, Marshall isn't a detective anymore, remember? It's a detective's ID card. About that jar, I think I've seen it somewhere before. Somewhere? Or maybe it's one of those memories people have from previous lives. This must be the most uninformative detective I've ever met. Something about it makes me feel uneasy. It's like I'm in the chief's office and he's yelling at me. Chief Gant. Where could I have seen that before? Edgeworth, you have a key. You're already in trouble. Hi, Edgeworth. Do you mind getting in more trouble? No one's here today. Not even Miss Starr. Everyone's probably busy looking into what exactly went down in the evidence room. That must be where the detectives are. But we proved in court today that on the day of the crime, no one was murdered in the evidence room at 5:15 p.m. Yeah, I thought we were finally making some headway in our case. But instead, it just looks like we ended up making Lana look even more guilty. Hang in there, Lana. I've got to find all the answers by tomorrow. Edgeworth, help. We gotta break into your boss's office. I wonder if Edgeworth is back yet. There he is! Looks like he's writing something. What are you doing here? He sure is quick to throw that paper on the floor. Tough day in court, huh? I've had to live the past 2 years with rumors flying around. What's another allegation to me? Cheer up, Mr. Edgeworth. I'm rooting for you. That's Edgeworth for you. Always trying to hide his real feelings. Yeah, someone was killed earlier, indeed. You want to make a love letter joke, but... I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about that. We wish it was a love letter. It's not. So what do you want? Unlike some people, I don't have all day. There's no excuse for what I've done. Yeah, it's definitely what I fucking think it is, isn't it? sorry, Edgeworth.
2 years ago, I used false evidence to obtain a guilty verdict. That's what it all breaks down to, and nothing I can do can erase that fact. But you didn't know, did you? I mean, that evidence was falsified. The police department and the prosecutor's office share a bond of trust. If that bond is broken, we stand to lose everything. The police department's error is my error, my responsibility as the prosecutor in charge. That fact remains the same no matter what excuses I might have. Mr. Edgeworth, I take pride in my work. I feel like crying, chat, and I can't even explain half the reason why. So tell me why. Why has it all come to this? Even Edgeworth can't keep up this kind of emotion bottled up. Sorry. Why is there not a comfort Edgeworth button? Are you up for the trial tomorrow? First last year's trial and now this one. It seems all you do is worry about me. Oh. Yes, because he cares about you. To be honest, you're getting on my nerves. But Mr. Edgeworth, you can't just walk out on the trial. Tomorrow's the last day. It's too late to change prosecutors. I'll bet that's what my superiors are banking on. I never thought that case would come back to haunt me like this. What do you mean? This is the list of evidence. It seems too short. Most lists run twice as long. It's only half as long as most lists. That's odd. After Neil Marshall was killed, I became prosecutor for that case. I may not have been part of the investigation, but I knew what I had to do. Use the evidence I was given to prove the suspect guilty. That was really the only thing on my mind at the time. Say, we just saw a picture taken around that time. That picture. Something seemed strange about it. You know, there is something weird about it that Edgeworth would definitely notice. The whole sword thing, mainly. This picture was hanging on the wall in Chief Gant's office. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He had just started making a name for himself. Looks like this was taken when he received the King of Prosecutors trophy. Speaking of that, there's something that bothers me. Yes. The trophy Mr. Marshall is holding. It's a little different than yours. Yes, you're right. Oh, I remember now. Remember what? That was what the official's prosecutor's trophy looked like until 2 years ago. There's a story behind its design. A story? Sounds interesting. Would you mind telling it to us? It's simple, really. Contradiction. That's what the award is based on. Could you tell us again about what happened that day? The day Detective Goodman was murdered. You were participating in a ceremony over at the station, right? I've never cared for ceremonies, but I had to attend this one. Because you were awarded this. Those receiving awards can't exactly skip out on the ceremony. I finished up in the office in the morning, then drove over to the police department. You finished up at the office? Yes, just odds and ends. Clerical stuff. I didn't plan on returning to the office that day. That is until I was asked to take something back. Take something back. This. Oh yeah, Chief Gant asked you to hold on to that, didn't he? So where the fuck does the screwdriver go into this? It was a piece of evidence in a case that was closed half a year ago. He asked me to bring it back to the prosecutor's office.
That's the story we heard yesterday. So you came back here to the prosecutor's office because the chief asked you to. That's right. I'm concerned. This award originates from an ancient Chinese tale. In Chinese, the word contradiction is written with 2 characters. The first means halberd, and the second means shield. Have you heard the story? Me? Sure, everyone knows that. Why don't you tell us, though? For Emma's sake. Very well. Long ago in the kingdom of Chu, there was an arms merchant. One day, he presented the king with 2 items. The first was a halberd he claimed could slice through any shield or armor. The second was a shield he claimed could withstand any weapon. Wait a minute. Those claims contradict each other. Very perceptive. But then again, you've heard this story before, right? Anyway, as you mentioned, the very descriptions of these items discredit them both. When the king pointed this out, the merchant was left speechless. And thus, the Chinese word for contradiction was born. Oh, I see. So the chipped shield and the broken knife symbolize... Precisely so. They symbolize the merchant's items. The ancient tale ends with the merchant at a loss for words, but it's in our nature to pursue matters to their entire conclusion, even if the result is something as ugly as this. Wow! Thanks, Mr. Edgeworth. I learned something new today. That's funny. If that's so, then why were you only given a shield? You'll have to ask Chief Gant. I don't think he's gonna tell me because the sword was a murder weapon. 2 years ago, he had the halberd part of the award abolished. Yeah, 2 years ago. Just when conveniently something with that shape could have, stabbed someone. Chief Gant. 2 years ago, the halberd was removed at Gant's behest, giving it its current form. Oh yeah, I'm sure he did, yeah. So what the fuck about the screwdriver? This was a case half a year ago? Are we gonna have to solve that too while we're at it, Edgeworth? Because Jesus Christ. Come now, Wright. You can't seriously expect me to just sit down and chat with you about the case over a cup of tea. But this isn't related to the case, remember? You said so yourself. So I did. Chief Gant gave this to you that day, didn't he? He asked you to bring it here from the police department. The chief is a very competent man, but sometimes he does things that don't make any sense. At least it's better than being incompetent and doing things that don't make sense. Certain detective comes to mind. I wonder what he was writing before. Come on, Mr. Wright. Let's take a look. Are you crazy? Edgeworth is sitting right there. Just distract him. I'll check it out. Hey, Edgeworth. Is that Detective Gumshoe outside the window there? Oh no, he's falling to the ground. Hold on. First, let me see what the girl's doing clawing around at my feet. He didn't even look. What? A letter of... If you're having trouble reading, I'll read it for you. It says, letter of resignation. Resignation? No. I want to beat Gant up. I'm tired, right? I feel as if something inside me has died. Mr. Edgeworth. None of it is your fault.
I know the path I've walked. You don't need to tell me. And the path I've walked hasn't been a just one. I can't forgive myself for what I've done.
And no one else should forgive me either.
Uh-oh.
I think he's serious.
This is no longer muffled, I'm yelling. I'm not yelling because I have neighbors, but I'm trying not to cry.
Mr. Wright, please, you have to do something.
This letter of resignation. I wonder if I can use it for anything. Edgeworth's discarded letter of resignation. He's serious. There are reasons that this letter hurts so much. There is no smooch Edgeworth button, though I wish there was. We'll get to the reasons this letter hurts so much next game, eventually. Also, if Edgeworth ever resigns from prosecution, you want him to work alongside Phoenix. God, that would be such a fluffy way for this to go, wouldn't it? Excuse me. Would either of you care for a quarter pound of roast beef? I mean, yeah, that sounds fucking great. I wish I had a quarter pound of roast beef. I could have sandwiches for days. Miss Starr. I guess she's out of lunches. And you certainly are the curious sort, aren't you? Kind of like the first person who sucked a cow's nipple to discover milk. What? I forgot that line. That's a fucking sentence and a half. Still, I never thought you'd go digging up that case from 2 years ago. Everyone in this trial was involved in the SL9 incident. Not only that, but the murder occurred on the very day evidence from the case was due for transferal. This can't be attributed to mere coincidence. Aren't you forgetting something? You know, that little scene I happened to witness. The instant Lana stabbed Detective Goodman with a knife. No matter how much of the past you dig up, it won't change what I saw. Roast beef is meant to be savored when eaten. Miss Starr's hatred towards Lana. It all dates back to 2 years ago. Is it time for Phoenix to do a dumb thing? When is it time for Phoenix to not be dumb? Joe Dark. That's a name I'll not soon forget. We trailed him for half a year. Oh, the pressure. Still, I don't think I was ever more alive than I was then. Those days were steamier than a bowl of hot gravy. Poor old Jake Marshall, though, must have been going through hell. You mean because of his brother's death? They were close, those two. After Neil died, something took over Jake. He became obsessed. Seeing Jake like that made her all the more desperate. Her. Lana Skye. My sister? The best of the best were put on that SL9 case. Of course, they were led by that legendary duo. Lana and Chief Gant. That legendary pair was the reason we were able to keep up our investigation. That's why we were so shocked over how it turned out. You mean with the forging of evidence? Don't get me wrong, Joe Dark got what he deserved. Still, it was obvious the evidence produced in court was being manipulated. Items our team never found would suddenly appear, while other items were kept secret.
you don't have proof that anything illegal was done. I'm proof enough of what happened. After that case, all of us, save Goodman, were relieved of our duties. Most without even so much as an explanation.
And they blame Lana when literally everything points to Gant. Yep, they do blame her.
Then Lana Skye transferred to the prosecutor's office and became chief prosecutor. Lana always wanted to be a prosecutor. Nothing's quite as simple as it appears. Huh? Lana Skye was merely being used as a pawn. That's my take on the matter. She was being used. Actually, it does appear, Lycosone, that Angel Star is rather aware of that. Damon Gant and Lana Skye. Gant led the investigation, with Lana as a second-in-command. They were the best. They solved all kinds of cases together, didn't they? Damon Gant's magnetism in particular was almost unreal. His magnetism? By that I mean his ability to attract evidence. He'd produced the most incredible evidence at the cases he handled. Incredible evidence, you mean? Oh yes, there were rumors about him even back then. No one dared confront him, though. Sus. I take it she's talking about forged evidence. Back then, everyone looked up to Lana. All the detectives wanted to be like her. Really? Oh, yes. Myself included. I was a fool, really. She hated anything crooked and always watched out for the other detectives. That's why she was so concerned for Jake. Mr. Marshall. When Jake's brother was murdered, she felt as if she had lost her own brother. It wasn't for her, I don't think Jake would have ever recovered from the shock. That's what makes it all the more infuriating. Miss Starr. That's why I'll never be able to forgive her. Why did she have to turn so cold after that? Lana transferred to the prosecutor's office 2 years ago, didn't she? Yes, thanks to Chief Gant's powerful influence. Chief. That's right. Having solved the SL9 case, his position as chief was secured. Oh, hey, look! A motive. Gant could conveniently set up a murder that he would solve and also perpetrate, therefore pushing himself forward in his career. I remind you, Gant, despite his wisdom and apparent ability to solve cases, is 65. Oh, hey, Lala. Welcome. Damon Gant is 65 years old. He is coming to the end of his reasonable career. There would be pressure for him to promote himself if he was going to get there in his lifetime. There was only one thing left for him to control, and then no one could stand in his way. The prosecutor's office. What? You mean that's why Lana was transferred? If he could control the chief prosecutor, he could control the prosecutor's office. That must have been his goal all along. But how could he control Lana? I don't know, but one thing's for sure. Ever since that case ended, she's never been the same. It's only logical to conclude. There must have been a reason for her to change. At last, I'm finally getting close to the bottom of this ugly mess. Thank you, Miss Starr. You listen to me, rookie. It takes more than just ingredients to create fine cuisine. I hope you turn out to be a better chef than I've been. Thank you. You have been helpful today, Miss Starr. Alright, police department. Gant is something else. He really is, man. The man has a fucking pipe organ in his office, which, if anything else, couldn't scream villain loud enough.
Oh, you're back.
You're still here?
I gotta make 150 copies of these files. Brewing coffee, copying files. I'm turning into a regular DJ.
You're a DJ as well?
If I'm not mistaken, I think he means desk jockey.
Oh, that DJ.
Gotta admire persistency, but my answer's still no. I'm not letting you in the chief's office, period. It'd be my neck on the line. That office is the last crime scene in the SL9 incident. I have to take a look in there. There's gotta be something we can do to make the detective change his mind.
Oh, there is. I'm so sorry to be a guilt-trippy little bitch, but we know that Gumshoe really cares about Edgeworth. And we also know he's resigning. Due to recent events, I hereby announce my resignation as public prosecutor. He really wrote a resignation letter. Wow, even when resigning, Mr. Edgeworth is cool and concise. Pardon me for a second. Okay, I'm done. Yeah, cool and concise, that's a way to put it. Still, it wasn't his fault. Someone has to be held responsible. That's how it is in the grown-up world. Yeah, but that responsibility means nothing if he just quits. Well, not everyone sees it that way. To truly take responsibility, you should have to work the rest of your life for no pay. That's one tough grown-up world out there. I'm sorry to guilt-trip you, Gumshoe, but it's the only way. What's this crumpled up piece of paper? No way. Mr. Edgeworth can't be serious. Is he ever not serious? I can't believe they've pushed him this far. Mr. Edgeworth really feels responsible. When I first met him, I thought he was cold as ice too. But I know different now. He trusted us detectives to provide him with sound evidence. But we betrayed him. Detective. That's it. I've made up my mind. But, here, take my ID card. You can't do that. If someone found out, they wouldn't let you off the hook with another lost item report. Look at me. It's no secret that I'm already out of the loop. After all, I'm friends with Mr. Edgeworth. Depending on how this case turns out, I may already be as good as terminated. What? So at least let me do this. For Mr. Edgeworth's sake. Alright, Detective. Thank you. Police Department ID card allows access to areas of the PD open to detectives. It's time. February 24th, Police Department Chief's Office. Here goes, Mr. Wright. You're still convinced Gumshoe is out of the loop because he would have done a good job investigating and Gant could not lean on him? I think it's half that, and half that Gumshoe is so closely tied to Edgeworth. And if you look at all the evidence here, Edgeworth was meant to take the fall. If not through him having all of his faulty actions coming through with the case, but beyond those mistakes that he's been making. The murder victim was in his car, in his prosecutor's office. He was in the evidence room at a suspicious time. It's a setup. They couldn't have someone close to Edgeworth on the case. They needed to get rid of him. We're in. If anyone finds us now, Detective Gumshoe's a goner. If that happens, I'm counting on you to bail me out. Sorry, I thought you were a ghost. I didn't even know you could slap a ghost. Ah, Detective Gumshoe. What are you doing sneaking up on us like that? I wasn't sneaking. I was just worried something might go wrong. And Edgeworth has been slipping from his ruthless persona. Listen, if Chief Gant is as awful as he seems, he needs a prosecutor that would take whatever evidence was given to him and get guilty verdicts. And Edgeworth used to be great for that. Edgeworth was obsessed with getting everyone proven guilty after what happened to his father and after a childhood of, well, essentially, what's the word? Softer than brainwashing. I don't remember what the word is. A softer term for brainwashing. By Von Karma, he would be perfect for what Gant wanted. But now that he's grown himself a conscience and had character development, and on top of that, now that Edgeworth is a person who has negative press ties because of his stance on the defendant's stand, he is a liability to Gant. Conditioning. Yes, that's the word. Thank you. Conditioning. So I came to. If you're here, what's the point in giving us your ID card? Gumshoe's ID card's crushed and rendered unusable in pocket. Wait, give him back his ID card. Hey, don't do that in my card. I hardly ever get a chance to come in here, so I figured I'd have a look around myself. Besides, we're all in this together now. You really don't want to get fired, do you? Not if we're lucky. Come on now, let's see what we can find. I've got a bad feeling about this. That desk on the other side of the room, was that your sister's? Yes, that's where I was waiting for Lana. On that day 2 years ago. Also gaslighting with Von Trauma, true. Also gaslighting. Is anyone using it now? No, sir. This is entirely Chief Gant's office now. He practices a strict policy of preserving the crime scene. What a dumbass. That's a strange reason to leave it here. Side note, Edgeworth is your age. Yes, a lot of the characters in this series are rather young. Edgeworth is 24 in this game. Lana's only 29, which is still very young for her position. He leaves it as a warning to everyone else. He wants us to always be alert. Oh, same birth year. Yes. He told us himself at our New Year's party. Of course, he was pretty intoxicated at the time. Well, it was his mistake to get drunk. That means that all the evidence should still be at Lana's desk. They're younger in the original games, 21, you believe? I can see why they altered it. So ever since Lana left, no one ever touches that desk. No one except Chief Gant and the cleaning lady who's in here each morning. Still, 2 years have passed since that incident. There can't possibly be any clues remaining. Can I ask you something? Sure. You only came here to look around, right? Because of the one of the SL9 crime scenes. I mean, that's your only reason for coming here, isn't it? Why do you ask? You don't think? Nah, you wouldn't be. No. No, there's no way. Never mind. Don't worry about it. Okay, then let's look around a bit more. Hey, hold on, not so fast, buddy. Huh? What is it? When someone tells you don't worry about it, it's supposed to start bothering you, pal. I love Gumshoe so much. Worried about Edgeworth too, Gumshoe. It's okay. You don't just let it go with that. Sorry. This guy's starting to get on my nerves. Okay, so what's bothering you? You two don't think Chief Gant might be a suspect, do you? What? He's right, Mr. Wright. What do we think of him? Chief Gant. So it's finally come to this. What do I think of him? Perhaps it's best I don't divulge my feelings. Yet. There you go, ignoring me again. Wow, look at the size of Chief Gant's desk. Speaking of that, when we were here earlier... Oh, it's you two. Chief Gant. He put that paper he was reading in his desk. I wonder what he was reading. This looks like a list of evidence. A list of evidence? In most cases, the list runs twice as long as this, though. SL9, it's back again! Hey, look at that case name! Huh? SL9 incident. I wonder what it's doing here. Hold on, Detective. What did you just say? I said I wonder what... about evidence lists. Normally they're twice as long. Oh, that's right. I guess there wasn't a lot of evidence. A half-sized list of evidence. The list of evidence. It seems too short. Most lists run twice as long. What would the other half of the list be doing here? I knew it! The chief must be hiding something about this case. It would appear so. List of evidence from the SL9 incident. It was ripped in half, so this is all I've got. What does it say? Can I not read it now? Wait. Excuse me. I wonder what this is. It looks like someone drew some kind of sketch here. What is it? Did you find something? I can't make it out. I'd better keep quiet about it for now. Huh? Oh, no, it's nothing. Don't keep quiet about it, dumbass. She drew the sketch. Why are your eyes moving about like that, Mr. Wright? I'd better not forget about this picture. Okay, chat. Remember about the photo on the back of the evidence. This is the real deal, isn't it? The armor and these weapons? Sure is, pal. The chief doesn't care for imitations. First the pipe organ, now this armor. Do you know how many taxpayer dollars must have gone into this room? What? You mean we're paying for this? That's it. I'm not paying 1 cent of my taxes. Listen, Emma, even the Joker doesn't fuck with the IRS. You pay your taxes. You don't have any taxes to pay. Shh, be careful what you say. Who knows? The chief may be hiding in this armor as we speak. I don't think he'd fit in there. Yeah, the chief's organ. Even if he did, he'd never be able to back out. These are all flirty gifts from Von Trapp. Oh, God. Cut it out. You guys don't know how scary that guy can be. I would make a joke about pipe organs, but it seems rather inappropriate for a PG-13 stream. The chief's organ sure is a sight to behold. Occasionally we hear him playing it from the Criminals Affairs Department. That's on the 2nd floor, and this is on the 15th floor of an entirely different building. When a detective screws up, he calls them to his office and makes them listen to the organ for hours. What's so bad about that? Music soothes the soul. After that, the detectives can't hear anything for days except the ringing in their ears.
If the foreshadowing doesn't kill you, the Gant shipping jokes and Cat will. Gumshoe, you're making the joke worse. An instrument of punishment, literally. Okay. But aren't the chief's ears affected? He never listens to anyone anyway. We're talking about the instrument, right? Yes, the organ. The organ. Okay, I'm gonna stop. This is a PG-13 stream. I'm gonna stop. That's besides the point. If this was adults only, I would allow you to run away with all sorts of organ blowing jokes, but let's not. This mark looks like some kind of flower. Bans the streamer. Listen, I can make whatever jokes I want. I run this house. I can choose the mods. Organ blowing. You heard me. Organ blowing. And that is the only version of that joke I am going to say, because anything else I say will be way too adult for Twitch. Prosecutor's badge. Yeah, like the one hanging from your collar. What? They have badges too? The design's supposed to portray the severity of the punishment system. Now that you mention it, it does look all pointy and kind of painful. But Mr. Edgeworth never wears a badge. That's because he's a sharp dresser. A badge like that wouldn't go too well with his outfit. So sharp dressers don't need to wear badges. I guess everyone just kind of lets it slide. I don't see how that's supposed to signify severe punishment. I'm scanning the walls themselves. Oh, hey, look, a window. It literally matches, but okay. I mean, the color would complement his shirt very well, but okay. You can see pretty far from 15 stories up. If you were to drop that suit of armor from here... At first, the chief wanted to use stained glass for this window. Really? Why didn't he? They said he changed his mind because he wouldn't be able to see the view. Oh. Stained glass or not, it's a huge window. You say. The defense badge could pass for a lapel flower. Honestly, the prosecutor's badge even more so. Wow, look at the size of Chief Gant's desk. We found this inside the drawer. A list of evidence from the SL9 incident. Mr. Edgeworth had the other half of that list. What would this list be doing here? We'd better look at a little more at this list. Well, yes, but you won't tell anyone what you saw. Gant really wants to live in that gothic dream, doesn't he? He really does. This was taken on that day 2 years ago. The day Joe Dark ran out of the questioning room and tried to kill Emma. After receiving his award trophy, Mr. Marshall took a picture here, then went along with the chief to question Dark. I bet he never knew he'd be dead just a few hours later. Gee, you think? These shelves are mostly empty. Lana must have cleaned them out when she transferred over to the prosecutor's office. There's a small picture frame on the left shelf. Hey, this is when Lana and I went to that theme park. The defense attorney's badge is based on a sunflower. That's very cute. Why is he like this? Listen, if you had the money and power to have the pure aesthetic of your dreams in your room at all times, would you not do it? This is Lana's desk, and it sure is tidy. Lana's always been a meticulous cleaner. There's not even any dust on it. Looks like someone's still keeping it clean. Does Lana ever come back here? know. Chief Gant must keep it clean in memory of their partnership. They were the stuff legends are made of. Does he keep it in memory of her, or in memory of the crime? Good questions all around. If the prosecutor's badge is sun over the winter forest, and the defense attorney's badge is the sunflower, they go together quite well, don't they? Look at that giant window. Makes you want to crash through it and jump outside. This is the 15th floor? Please don't. I know, I was just saying. Saying what? Ever since making detective, I always dreamed about doing something like that. Note to self, Detective Gumshoe has a lot of dreams. So long as he doesn't go crashing through that window when he gets fired. Don't say that. Phoenix, that joke is like more extreme than the joke I made about the pipe organ. Sounds like a music video. It does kind of sound like a music video. Okay, so. I want to spray shit with luminol. Because this is a sus place. Just spray everything. The pipe organ is suspicious. Oh god, there's a specific. Does luminol work after 2 years? I don't know. It's worth a shot. I still have it, right? Ah, where the fuck is the luminol? Let's go to the right and check on Gant's side of the table. When does the chemical signature fade? I wish I was a forensic scientist so I could tell you whether or not this is accurate, but I honestly have no idea if it doesn't have to do with, like, archaeology. Find it hilarious that after all these things, Gant is going to find quite a lot of things wet with luminol on it because the streamer just decided to spray all the shit. How about the pointy thing over on the right? That does seem rather sus, doesn't it? It is pointy. Note. Nope. Sits down in chair. Did the janitor come through here? Hey, can you show us, like, more of the... Can you talk more about the jar while we're here? Ah, there we go. There's the evidence I need. Now I know where I saw that jar before. Sorry if I don't always remember perfectly the order in which I'm supposed to do things. It has been a little while since I played this last. I just know that there's blood somewhere in this room. It was right here. Here? You mean in the chief's office? If I do recall, I used to sit right on top of that shelf 2 years ago. I used to stare at it while being forced to listen to that organ. You would stare at it? I'd try to use my telepathy to knock it over. Your telepathy. Hey, there it is. Right there in the picture, see? Oh, yeah. Oh, no, you weren't supposed to present a banana. You were supposed to present the picture of a banana. Penalty. It's not a certain autopsy report in the second game. True. It's not a certain clown from the second game. You get to decide whether or not I mean that ironically. Oh, yeah. This is a safe, isn't it? Safe. That word is ripe with intrigue. Okay, if you say so. It looks
Looks like a code needs to be entered in this panel to open it. A 7-digit number. I think I just might know what it is. Do you know what it is? I have a hunch. Oh, I know. You want to try my birth date. It's... I have a better idea. Here goes nothing. 777777. You fool! You fall in front of the... Why? You know what? I guess they really are boyfriends. Both Von Karma and Gant are terrible at securing their things. Between Von Karma's bank code being 12344 and the passcode being 77777, both of them are lucky they haven't been robbed. Bingo. What number did you enter? Whose birthday was that, pal? 777777. The final ID card number on the record. What? The number of the mysterious executive officer who entered that room that day. You mean 777777? That ID number? Makes too much sense. The organ, the European armor, they were roommates. Yes. God damn it, I want to make another organ joke, but I can't. I think you're 1-7 shy this time. This could only mean one thing. That's Chief Gant's ID number. Same brain cell. Listen, the amount of organ jokes I have. I didn't know that I was capable of coming up with so many on the fly. I'll share them in private later with my friends. Say, anyone care to look inside? Yes. What is in the safe? Is there any money in there? How much does he have stashed away? Look, it's a shard from a broken cup. This somehow looks familiar. Where have I seen this before? There's something else in here too. What's this? It looks like a piece of leather cloth. This is a handprint, isn't it? Hey, I saw someone wearing a shirt like that once. You think the chief made up the design? A handprint. I don't think so. Oh, well, it was just a thought. Is that it? That's all that was in the safe? Apparently so. It's empty now. A piece of cloth with a handprint on it and a broken shard from a cup. They look like pieces of evidence. Yeah, but unless you can prove they have something to do with this case, I'm afraid I can't just let you take them. After all, it's my neck on the line here. Great. Now I have to prove their relevancy to get them. How are these two items related to the SL9 incident? Come on, there's gotta be something we can show the detective. Well, the first one is rather obvious. That being that one of them fits perfectly on this. Detective Gumshoe, could you have another look at this jar? I remember when the three of us put it back together. Ah, those were the days. It's kind of early to be nostalgic. It's only been like 6 hours. The print is so clear. Jesus. Wasn't this jar a piece of evidence from another case? That's right. One of the shards had SL9 incident sticker on it. Doesn't this ring any bells? You know, the fragment we just found? You mean this one that was in the safe? Yes, that one that was in the safe. Oh! Now that you mention it, it's ringing a lot of bells. Let's see if it fits. A simple fragment. Here, let me see that shard. I'll take a crack at this. Go ahead, pal. Show us what a rookie can do. Mr. Wright, here's some glue. If I can piece this together again. It'll prove that Chief Grant was knowingly hiding evidence. Here goes. No, we gotta flip it a little bit. There we go. Oh, hey, there's blood on it. There, it fits like a charm. That, of course, means Chief Gant willingly and knowingly hid a piece of this jar in his safe. In other words, he concealed a piece of evidence from the SL9 incident. But, hey guys, get a load of this. What is it? This piece you just attached. It's different from the others. There's a reddish line on it. A reddish line. That's blood. I don't get it. Why would Chief Gant hide this in his safe? Hey, look here. It's hard to make out, but there's a dark red stain there. Looks like blood. This piece the Chief has is different, though. The blood stains on the other pieces are just spots, but this one is a line. That is odd. Boy, Gumshoe, do we have bad news about your boss. Gumshoe looks so sad, it makes me sad. Hey, doesn't that look like Marshall's shirt? If I'm fired, I won't be able to give you any information, so that's why I have to get it out of my system now. You understand, don't you? Don't be so negative, Detective. We want you to share your information, though. Oh, is that not the right thing? Oh, who am I fooling? I never had anything useful to share to begin with. Ah, gotta stay positive. Can we take Gumshoe and Edgeworth out for ice cream after this? God, I wish. I don't think it's the rubber glove, is it? Nope. Not the photo. He didn't say anything to it. Present the powder, maybe. Oh, yeah, you're right. Probably. That might be what I'm forgetting in the steps. Again, it's been a while since I've done this case. Detective Gumshoe, I'd like you to have a look at this. Thank you, Lala. Very, very smart. Hey, I know what this is. Do you want to take some fingerprints? That's a great idea, Detective. Alright, go to town. Sheesh. What are you doing? Why are you sticking out your hand like that? Go ahead, take my fingerprints. It's not your fingerprints we want to take. Huh? Come on, this isn't the time for jokes. We're talking about that cloth we found in the safe. Oh, I knew that. The one with the handprint on it, right? Sheesh, where's your sense of humor? Let's see. Also, you can apparently delve fingerprints with iodine. I didn't know that. Sprinkle the powder on the cloth. Then once they've been absorbed in the prints, blow the rest away. What are you, my mom? I don't have to be told a million times. Alright, let's get this over with. At least this isn't a DS version, so you don't have to deal with me blowing directly into the microphone. But you do have to deal with my spamming of the enter button, so I don't know what's worse, really. It's kind of at this angle, right? No ASMR here, only enter button spam ASMR here. Unless you want me to whisper you a lullaby or something.
I gave it my best shot. That kind of result won't be good for matching any prints, will it? It doesn't look like we'll get a clearer result from this print. Okay, let's try a different finger then. Well, it's not that one. Oh no, this one looks pretty clear, if I had to guess. Keyboard smash ASMR stream when? Tonight, apparently. Also, I don't have an ASMR microphone. Friend Dan got one, and it's real nice sounding if you do have one of those, binaural ones. Yes, the middle finger. That would be just perfect, wouldn't it? Just an extra fuck you from our killer here. Okay, there is a fingerprint here, for sure. It is the middle finger. Of course it fucking is. I love that so much. Want the most visible fingerprint in history fingerprints. Oh, come on now. Smash keyboard. Blow. What part of this is not visible enough for you, Emma? Just the killer's opinion of our case here. Yeah, clearly. Upper right, maybe. Okay. It's not Gate. It's not Mike. It's not Jake. It's not quite Goodman. It's not Gumshoe. Doesn't quite look like Lana Skies. Alright, kids, we have, by far the strangest little thing that we've found so far in this case. As a big ol' fuck you to the player, the middle finger matches Emma's. No. How can this be? What are Emma's fingerprints doing here? Hey, you found a match? Whose fingerprints were they? Huh? Oh, it seems the prints are too old. They aren't clear enough to get a match. Oh, that's too bad. I thought they'd be Dark's prints. Psst. Hey you, over here. What's going on here? What are the kids' prints doing inside Chief's safe? Don't ask me. Let's just keep this information from Emma for now. Phoenix, you could tell her and solve things, but no communication in this plot line. Not here, not today. Here, maybe you should hold on to this. Piece of cloth. Found in Gant's safe. Evidence for something, but what? Bears Emma Sky's fingerprints. Oh no, oh no, oh no indeed. Well, was I any help? Of course. Thanks to your ID card, we were able to get some hard evidence. No, that's not very kind, is it? In other words, if it wasn't for his ID card, he would have been useless. Isn't that right, you in the coat? Chief Gant? We didn't think you'd be back so soon. Fortunately, I am a man who believes in signs. As I was walking back to my meeting, I happened to look out a window and saw a stray dog run right into a pole. Just then, I thought of a certain detective. Do you mean me, sir? Now then, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask all of you to leave. Yes, sir. Sorry. Oh, you in the coat. Me, sir? Drop off your ID on the way out. You won't be needing it anymore. Sir. Now get out. Yes, sir.
be on our way too, then. Wait. You, the one without the spiky hair. Don't go yet. Me, sir? I'd like a word with you. But sir, I'm not a licensed scientific investigator yet. You with the spiky hair, you're free to go. Throwing salt at can't get away even. I'm scared. Mr. Wright. Look, pal, if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. The chief's office is off limits. But no, you just had to go sneaking in there like that, didn't you? I thought you said you didn't care anymore if you were fired. Yeah, but if I knew it'd be like this, I never would have said it. Now that I've seen the evidence Chief Gant was hiding in his office, I think I'm finally starting to get the picture. But why has she kept eerily silent about it this whole time? Anyway, you listen to me. I'm gonna try to smooth things over with the chief again. Later, pal. Where's Emma? After that, I heard from Emma. She said the police wanted to ask her some questions. No. I don't want to go to bed. I want to finish the case, but I have to sleep. So she'll be busy for the rest of the day. I see. So the chief asked Emma to come in for questioning. It's no use thinking about it. Tomorrow's the final day in court. I'm committed to doing everything I can to defend you, which is why I'm here. But I've already told you all I can. What you've told me over these past couple days is absolutely nothing. Not a single useful thing. Gant asked Emma to come in for questioning, and everyone thinks it's disturbing. Really, I do believe I did mention something quite important. Something I told you right at the beginning. I said that I was the one who stabbed Detective Goodman. You know, I think I finally figured it out. I know who it is that's lurking behind your words. Mia did a good job mentoring you. I'm rather jealous. It seems Edgeworth was right. Edgeworth? Anyone want to commit arson on a pipe organ? Literally scale the building, break in, set the whole office on fire. Once you've convinced you know something, no one can persuade you otherwise. Thick-headed is the term he used, I believe. Now's my chance to get her to tell me the rest of the story. I have to admit I was more than a little perplexed at first. You insisted you did it, yet there was no incriminating evidence. That's when it hit me. It's not that you're unwilling to tell the truth. It's that you're incapable of doing so, because of a certain individual. What an intriguing notion. A certain individual, you say. So you think I'm protecting this person? Protecting? No, I think afraid of is more like it. If I'm not mistaken, the person in question may have persuaded you to silence. For argument's sake, Mr. Wright, may I ask whom this person is you're speaking of? The one I'm supposedly so frightened of. What is this person's name? Well, Miss Skye? Mr. Wright, you are addressing the chief prosecutor. Do not forget your place. I take it she's still not ready to spill the beans. My apologies. Could you please tell me a bit more about what you think you know? We were partners until 2 years ago. I expected him as a detective. Assuming he is respectable, then tell me something. Why would he try to hide his crimes? His crimes? Both you and Edgeworth will be brought before a board of inquiry for what you did, specifically hiding and forging evidence. Of course, these are serious offenses. Why is it, though, that Chief Gant's name was never mentioned? Chief Gant. Edgeworth didn't know the truth behind the forgery. The only party who could have possibly tampered with the evidence was me. I had access because I was second in command of that investigation. Yes, you, but also one other, Damon Gant. If you intend to accuse Chief Gant, you'll need more than just words. Show me proof that Chief Gant falsified evidence in that case. This is the most obvious. I just found this in a safe in a chief's office. This jar piece and this piece of cloth. Do you know what these are? They're pieces of evidence from the SL9 incident. The person concealing evidence was none other than Chief Gant himself. Now tell me, why are you taking all the blame for him? Touché, Mr. Wright. It's as you surmised, I cannot disobey the Chief's orders, even if it means being found guilty for murder. Why not? Come now, Mr. Wright, you can't possibly expect me to be able to tell you that. 3 days ago, I had no choice but to cooperate in the murder of Detective Goodman. Or perhaps I should say, follow orders. Yes, that's more accurate than cooperate. Although I can't tell you the details, I can say that I was given an order that day. I need you to dispose of Bruce Goodman's body. You'll find it inside the trunk of Miles Edgeworth's car. Just as I suspected. Despite what everyone believes. Oh, you're sweet. You think that the motherfucker just threatened Lana? You were not the one who murdered Detective Goodman. Correct. I was trying to take the body out of Edgeworth's car. The trunk's lock was broken, and I discovered that the murder weapon while inspecting the body. The murder weapon? You mean Edgeworth's knife? No. When I found the body, it was this knife stuck in it. The knife from the SL9 incident. I couldn't just leave that knife in him, so I took it out and stabbed him with another knife. And that would be Edgeworth's knife. That's right. Even though he was already dead, my hands were shaking at the thought of stabbing him. That's why I ended up cutting my hand. And that's the reason for the bandage on your right hand. Yes, seems that I got blood on the victim's shoes as well. And then, she saw me just as I plunged the knife in. Miss Starr, huh? Why did you need to hide Dark's knife so badly? It took a lot of work to finally close the Dark case 2 years ago. It was over with. I didn't ever want it to be opened again. My intent was to prevent that by whatever means possible. So you hid Dark's knife. The weapon used to stab the detective was evidence in Joe Dark's case. If word got out, which it would, the reporters would have a field day with that. So you wrapped the knife in your scarf and hid it in Edgeworth's exhaust pipe. Right. Then I called my sister to tell her what happened and ask her to hide the knife that was in my muffler. You asked Emma? I didn't want anyone in the force to know about this. That would explain why Emma was so confident about Lana's innocence. Speaking of phone calls, I had a bad feeling about one of them that day. A bad feeling. The truth is, after I received those orders from Chief Gant, the first thing I did was make a phone call.
A phone call to Patrolman Jake Marshall.
To Marshall? Why on earth would you call him?
The lead investigator for the SL9 incident had been murdered. I wanted that fact to be kept hidden, and I needed help. He was the only other person I could trust.
Ah. Welcome deeper into the web of this case. Now we know why Marshall's doing his shit.
Or at least I thought he could trust him at the time. However, it seems that after I spoke to him, he went on an escapade of his own. Oh, you mean... Not wanting the case to die, he decided to take things into his own hands. He disguised himself as Detective Goodman and tried to steal the evidence. He had already stolen the ID card, but it seems he still hadn't made up his mind to break into the evidence room. After my phone call, any remaining doubts he had must have disappeared. So your phone call caused the incident in the evidence room with Marshall. Yeah. I'm afraid that's all I can tell you. But Lana, you've earned my respect, Mr. Wright, both as a defense attorney and an investigator. Now please, don't pursue this any further in court tomorrow. Tomorrow's trial, there's only one way to drive off Lana's demons. I've got to get to the bottom of everything. Detective Goodman's real murderer. And what went down in the chief's office 2 years ago. Well, God, I hate to end it here, but it's 11. We are already an hour over time. Next time, Phoenix pursues all of this in court tomorrow. Next time, we have quite possibly one of the longest sessions we're going to have, which is going to be the trial, the final trial. The end is nigh, chat. We got a lot to do tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, next week. Tomorrow is Persona Night, so it shouldn't be as bad now that we've gotten through the boss fight that I was worried about. So, for now, thank you all for coming. We will be untangling the rest of this next Friday. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your night.